That's not good for any of us. So my new book, The Enemies Within, Communists, Socialists and Progressives in the US Congress. Now this lady wants to see, just here, man. Now my first book about Obama, that was 700 pages. And I got sick of carting that around the country, I can tell you. Okay, it's pretty heavy. And I vowed that this would be smaller. But it's bigger. Because the bloody commies just kept on coming. Okay? It's all about communists, socialists and progressives, you know. Actual communists in your Congress right now, 20 years after the fall of the Berlin Wall. And I had to put them in, like I couldn't leave out Rosa DeLauro, could I? Conscience, you know? How could I? John Conyers and, you know, Jim McGovern up in Massachusetts and, you know, Elizabeth Warren and...
You got Bernie Sanders.
Oh, absolutely, Bernie Sanders. He's got pride at place. But both senators in Massachusetts are included. You know, the new guy as well. It's got Ed Markey. All of them. Just riddled with them. But what the book is about, really, is the two big secrets of modern communism. And the first secret, they borrowed off the devil. Because we all know that the cleverest thing Satan ever did was to convince people he doesn't exist. Made a lot of progress doing that. Well, what have the communists done in the last 20 years? Most people think A, they don't exist, and B, if they do, they're no longer a threat. Now the second big secret of communism is the ability of a tiny Marxist group, might be a few hundred comrades strong, to dictate the legislative process in their country. So how could that be? How could less than 20,000 communists in your country dictate the legislative process in a country of 300 plus million people? It's a very small tail wagging a very big dog. Now, but before I go on, I just ask you to consider, when these people stand for public office, they get 75 or 100 votes, and people laugh at them. But it is not just the number of votes you get that determine your political influence. How many votes did Al Capone ever get in Chicago? Tell me he didn't run that city? How many votes does the mafia get in Sicily these days? Tell me they don't run Sicily? Bribery, corruption, extortion, indoctrination, propaganda, backroom deals, vote fraud. There's dozens and dozens of ways that a small, hard, disciplined group can control much larger groups from behind the scenes. And the communists have been doing this for more than 80 years now. That's what they do. It was less than 2,000 Bolsheviks that took over Russia, a country of 140 million people at the time. They've been doing this now for nearly 100 years. Practice, practice, practice. So, but what about some examples? Because this is all just pie in the sky theoretical stuff. Now, first of all, there's still seats up here, sir. One or two. You can sit on the bar if you like. Go off a couple. Now, firstly, I want to refer to an example of my own country, New Zealand. Well, really, how this is done is through the labour unions. Because you were very lucky in this country for a very long time, because your unions were controlled by hardcore anti-communists like Lane Kirkland and George Meany. They kept the Reds out of the AFL-CIO. But in 1995 there was a coup, because that was the year that Democratic Socialists of America, your largest Marxist group, took control of the AFL-CIO and put their man John Sweeney in as president. And then they put their protege Richard Trumka. The first thing Sweeney did was to revoke the anti-communist clause from the AFL-CIO's constitution, and the Marxists came flooding back. They now control every major labour union in your country. And if you've got the labour unions, folks, that gives you the Democratic Party. Because there's hardly a Democrat at any level in this country who does not owe his job to the labour unions. For manpower, for money, for people to put up yard signs, to get out the vote, commit vote fraud, whatever. They need the unions. So what happens is, the communists set a policy. This is what we want. It might be socialisation of student loans, normalisation of relations with Cuba, whatever it is. They make it Labour Union policy, and then the unions make it Democratic Party policy. It's a cut-out process. Communist policy becomes Labour Union policy, becomes Democratic Party policy. That's how a very small tail, by using the leverage of the unions, can dictate policy to the Democrats and dictate policy to the entire country. They do it all the time.